Welcome back to STAAR History Blitz. My name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, and today we're going to be going over part 1 of the Industrial Revolution. Here are some key points that we'll be reviewing. Now, it's important to know what sparked the Industrial Revolution in the United States. Well, it actually all started back in the War of 1812, where there was that interruption of foreign trade. We could not trade with other countries, so we had to manufacture our own goods. So then the nation began to change from an agrarian society, from just, crops and plantations, to an industrial society. Now, there were other factors that contributed to this. There was new transportation systems. People had money, capital to invest, to invest in businesses. Because of the immigrants coming in, we also had an abundance of laborers, meaning a lot of workers. And there was a lot of new innovations and inventions being made every day that really allowed the Industrial Revolution to take momentum. Now, one of the things I need you to know is that the Industrial Revolution made everything more efficient. Okay, that's the key word, efficient. And what does efficient mean? It made things faster, cheaper, easier, more, better. All right? So again, efficient, faster, cheaper, easier, more, better. That's really important for you to know. Some of the inventions, like the spinning jenny, allowed America to stop working at home, which is cotton industry, and start working in factories. What they did is, before, one cotton ball would be threaded one at a time at home, right? Well, they made a machine that could do many threads at one time. Then they got a bunch of those machines and put them in a building, and that became known as the factory system. That building was powered by water. They would build them in the north, right? Because the north had swift rivers. And so those mills were powered by the current of that river. And that had bands, and those bands would power those factories, right? And so that's how things started to be powered in those factory systems. Eventually, we moved over to steam power, all right? So there's other inventions that also spearheaded the Industrial Revolution, such as interchangeable parts and the cotton gin. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I need you to know that Americans moved from making goods at home, cottage industry, to the mass production of goods in factories. And mass production is doing a lot of these products in a factory, in a building. One of the most important products was invented by Eli Whitney, which was known as interchangeable parts. And basically what this did is it created the same part many times, identical machine parts, and then at the end you put them all together and you created a finished product. So this was allowing you to make a mass production of goods, and you didn't need skilled workers. You needed someone who could grab this piece and put it together, or someone who could pull this lever to create that product, right? And so you needed unskilled laborers to come and work. And so this unskilled labor would allow the factory owners to pay them less money, all right? So these new opportunities for employment in factories had many Americans leaving the rural, which is like the ranch, the farms, right, in the South, and relocating, migrating to the North. And so they would move to these manufacturing centers or textile mills where they were turning cotton into thread, into fabric. They would move over to these manufacturing centers, and these centers became cities. They started to live near and around the factories because it was easier for them. This became known as urbanization. So urban cities, rural farms. And so people left the farms and moved over to the cities. The main workers were women and children. Why? Because they were able to pay them less. So a lot of women were working in these factories, and children as well. And of course, they weren't the best conditions. As I mentioned earlier, there was a lot more people who had money to invest. These investors, these people who were taking their money and making businesses, are known as entrepreneurs. And so the new economic system that developed in the United States is the free enterprise system, also known as capitalism. The government isn't going to get involved, limited government interference. They're going to allow people to invest their money and to make their businesses, to have private property, to have a profit motive, meaning if you're making money, continue making money. And they're not going to tell people what businesses to have and who to buy and sell to and how much to sell their products for. It's called consumer sovereignty. And sovereignty is power, and consumer is the person purchasing those items. So again, if you look at these pillars in the free enterprise system, you see private enterprise, people investing their money in businesses. Competition, you can have two of the same businesses, right? Because competition is good. Private property, you own that business. Profit motive, you're going to sell your product as much as you want it. You're going to sell that product for as much as you want, as long as you're making that profit, right? That extra money. And people are going to buy what they choose to buy, right? I want to pay a little more for that because I want that one specifically. Or I'm going to pay less for this one because I don't want to spend too much. That became the free enterprise system, where the government doesn't get involved and the people run their businesses through supply and demand. Meaning, if people want more of it, then you're going to sell more of it. You're going to order, you're going to make more of it. Another invention was the cotton gin, also by Eli Whitney. And this mechanized the South, the agriculture. The cotton gin, what it did is that it cleaned the cotton. And basically what that means is every cotton ball has about 4 or 5 seeds in it, and they're sticky, and it takes a long time to remove the seed from the cotton ball. And so slave labor was used for that. And that took a long time. One slave could take all day to do 1 pound of cotton. Well, now Eli Whitney invented this machine where you threw 50 pounds of cotton and you cranked the lever, and it would comb through the cotton and it would remove the seeds and they would fall to the bottom. This made things more efficient, faster, cheaper, easier, more, and better. The only thing is, you would think that you wouldn't need slave labor now. It did the opposite, boys and girls. What it did is it increased slave labor. It spread slavery. We don't need them sitting there picking the seeds out of the cotton, because now we have a machine that does that faster. Well, now we need more slave labor picking the cotton out in the fields and bringing it in, because we're so much more efficient cleaning it out. So one of the negative effects is that it actually increased the demand for slave labor. Other machines that were invented in the South included the mechanical reaper, which would cut grain, the steel plow that would make the rows for cotton production, so it set up the land for harvesting so you can put the seeds in there. So the South also was affected by the Industrial Revolution. So just remember, the Industrial Revolution happened because we started to manufacture our own goods. We have the free enterprise system that contributed to people making businesses. We have the factory system that allowed for the mass production of goods. We have an increase in labor force as well. So that concludes part 1 of the Industrial Revolution. Again, my name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, and we will see you on part 2, which talks about transportation and communication revolution. Thank you very much.